Yo, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Basement Ballers. Today, the first edition of the Basement Ballers with guests with two of my closest friends in the whole entire North America. Uh, we got very knowledgeable Premier League fans in the building today for our video where we are going to be ranking the Premier League table from number 20 all the way to number 1. So if you guys like this kind of content, please make sure you leave a comment, a like, and all that. Subscribe to the page because we got more guests coming in. And if you want to be a future guest on the Basement Ballers show, make sure you guys follow the Discord, join the Discord, and then through that process, obviously, we're going to be inviting a lot more guests. But this is the first time we're doing it, so hopefully you guys like it. But first, we're going to start off with a little bit of an introduction. So go ahead.
Hello, my name is Gio. I'm a Liverpool fan. If you're on the Basement Ballers Nighttime Lives on TikTok Live, you might have seen me a little bit, might have heard me spew my Liverpool propaganda on there. Um, so yeah, that's me, and today we're gonna be doing the Premier League predictions.
Mhm.
All right, and yep, my name is Luke. I'm an Arsenal fan, and I feel as if I had a very knowledgeable base for reviewing over the Premier League. I've been an Arsenal fan since 2014, so I've seen all the highs and obviously all the lows with eighth place finishes. And yeah, I think I'm very knowledgeable in the league, and I think I'll do a great job within these predictions.
Amazing. And guys, if you guys like these two gentlemen, make sure you let them know in the comments because they'll definitely be making appearances in the future as well. But without further ado, boys, let's get straight into the video. We're starting off at number 20. We're going to go from Haji / Gio to Luke and then me in third. But we're going to start off with number 20. Go ahead, Gio.
So I feel like this is a bit of a cliche. I feel like a lot of people going into the season have seen the past 2 seasons in the Premier League where the bottom three have come up and they have automatically come down. So for 20th, I have Burnley. My reasoning behind having Burnley in 20th is last time they were in the Premier League in the 23-24 season, we saw under Vincent Kompany, a lot of people had them pretty highly. They were playing that good possession-based football. But I think this season with Scott Carson, I think a lot of people are buying into the hype of the idea that they conceded what it was like 16 goals in the championship last season. They got accrued a bunch of points. For me, I don't think they've recruited well enough in the attack at least. Armando Broya is a wonderful player. Obviously you have two Albanians in this call. We wish Armando Broya does very well at Burnley, but my whole thinking behind it is the appointment of Scott Carson. Last time he was in the Premier League, you saw at Bournemouth, didn't do a wonderful job there. And at Fulham, he had a very good team, the likes of Adam Lookman and Gisa, Jean-Michel Seri at the time, who was rated by a couple of Premier League fans. He didn't do well, he didn't perform, and for me, that's why I'm gonna have Burnley in 20th.
All right, and within the start of my Premier League predictions, I think it's going to turn out to be different within the relegation zone this year. Obviously, in 23, 24, 24, 25, bottom three came up, came down. I think this year's going to be very different because the teams coming up, I think they have a lot of quality within the league and they've done well to format their team. But to start 20th, I think I got Brentford because first and foremost, Visa and Mbeumo look like they're going to be leaving this year. I think they're probably two of their most important players, and the loss of Thomas Frank is going to really hurt him structurally and especially defensively since he's such a very versatile coach. And especially within the additions too, I don't think they reinforce enough to dampen the effect of losing those big players and that big manager. And I think the addition of a set piece coach isn't going to go within their favor. So I got Brentford 20th.
Fair enough. I actually have maybe a bit of a cop-out pick for my number 20. I have Sunderland. I just haven't really seen them doing too much in the offseason in terms of strengthening their squad. Obviously, they came into the Premier League in a very dramatic fashion, and I'm sure they have a lot of backing from their supporters and everything. And perhaps a bit of an underdog story here. I just don't feel like they have what it takes, like quality-wise, in order to sort of maintain that magic that they had finishing off of last season. So that's mainly it. I mean, I hear what you guys are saying about Brentford, and I hear what you're saying about Burnley. I have them a little bit higher, but we're going to get to that in a little bit. But let's move on to number 19, boys.
19, I have Leeds. I like Leeds United. I think, they're one of the staple Premier League clubs when you think of, the Barclays Premier League. Well, not necessarily the Barclays Premier League, but a little bit before that time. I think they're a historical club in England. Obviously, in the mid 2000s, you had them, performing very well. They had that Champions League run as well. So I think Leeds are a very English club, if that makes sense. But for me, I have them 19th. And again, I look at it with the manager, right? You have Farka, who was at Norwich, and twice when they came up, they twice went down. I think as well, I've been checking on Twitter a lot, and a lot of Leeds fans don't think that they've strengthened necessarily. And going into the season, I still think Patrick Bamford is the striker for them at the moment that they're kind of relying on. And last season, towards the end of the season, they kind of tailed off in their form. So for me, I would love Leeds to stay up. I do think it's really good when these historical Premier League sides stay up. But I think with Daniel Farke being their coach, I think he's a contender to be one of the first coaches to be sacked, alongside with my Burnley manager pick. Um, so yeah, I think Leeds are going to be 19th, but I would hope they do stay up. It would be nice to see that.
Hmm.
All right, and for me, I think that 19th place this season in the Premier League is going to be Wolves, and I think the number one reason for that is their loss of Cunha as well as Aït-Nouri. And just looking at how they finished out last season, I don't think they played very good for the majority of that season. They finished 16th place, and those two big losses in that department are going to really hurt them attacking wise. And defensively, we all know what kind of team Wolves are, but attacking wise, they lost those number 1 and 2 assets within those teams. So I think 19th is a very safe pick for me.
Yeah, I actually agree with Luke on number 19. I have Wolves as well. Similarly, because I feel like last season specifically, even when the Wolves were in the trenches, they had at least Cunha who come out and bail them out, individual brilliance and all. And I mean, we saw that against Liverpool, right, Gio, last season when we played
Yeah.
against them. But they don't have that this season. And quite frankly, I don't think they have a sufficient replacement for him who can sort of fulfill the same role. They were already a pretty poor team going into last season, competing with the likes of Manchester United and Spurs. But yeah, they just lost their like 1-2 punch with Cunha and then Aït-Nouri as well going to City. So that's why I have them at number 19. But let's move on to number 18, boys. What we got, Gio?
So 18, I have Brentford. Now I don't think Brentford are going to have as much of a catastrophic season as some people are saying, like 20th place. I do think though they will be relegated. They lost Thomas Frank, who that club has relied on that guy for so many years. I mean, for me, he's one of the most tactically flexible coaches in the league. He sets up every single game in a different formation, and he obviously does that depending on the team that he's playing. But for me, he was such a key part to Brentford's success in the Premier League. You had alongside that Embuemo, who scored 20 goals for Brentford last season. It looks like Visa, he's doing a Isaac type thing. He's, refusing to go to training and refusing to play for Brentford at the moment. He got, I think it was 19 goals. And you look at that, they lost their captain as well, Norgard. So you lost your best player, you lost your second best player and your captain alongside the coach that has revolutionized your whole team. They brought in Keith Andrews, who was a fan favorite. I mean, he was the set piece coach, and a lot of the players were advocating for him to be a coach, but I still think you lose so many key, crucial parts to that Brentford project that has gone very well considering, their stadium size and everything like that, the amount of money they accrued in. They're one of the more smaller teams in England. So for me, I think 18th place, but they still have some quality in that team. I think if Kevin Schade can, improve this season, can he take that step up? Will he be that player to, replace the Embuemo, the Visa output? Kelleher obviously signed from Liverpool. I think go joining Brentford, he saw it as an exciting project, but now he's probably going to be having to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So yeah, we'll see. But I think Brentford are going to finish 18th.
For me, in 18th place, I have Burnley. So previously mentioned Burnley were a lot. I feel like the unanimous pick around Burnley would be 20th place, but I think 18th is probably going to be the soft spot they finish because the Premier League's a very, very strong league defensively, and it's a league that rewards those type of teams that are really good defensively. So I think that's really going to help them out with their 16 goals conceded record out of last season, out of 46 games. But I will say they did lose James Trafford, which is a very huge loss for them to go to Manchester City. But I think that the addition of Kyle Walker and Edwards is going to be really is going to help their team, but I don't think it's going to help them enough attacking wise to just edge out those games or to get that one player to just take you off for the moment. So I think 18th Burnley is a very fair pick for me.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I have Burnley in at 18th. I think they will go down. Sometimes people, what they say is a good goalkeeper can really help your case when it comes to relegation battles because it's a bit of the clutch factor going into it. Obviously, with the loss of Trafford to City, they lose that edge. Who obviously he played really well for them last season. So and then they signed Kyle Walker. He's a great player on his day, but his day hasn't been there for quite a while. And obviously, he's not much of a these days specifically. He's not much of a prolific defender, I would say. So I think they're going to struggle in the back pause, but they're. Yeah, and then also that we don't really know what's going on with their goalkeeping situation. Whether whoever is going to step up for Trafford is ready for Premier League football, and I don't think he will be. So yeah, I have Burnley in at 18th, but we are ready for number 17. Gio, hit us with it.
17, I'm going to go with Sunderland. I just, did that whole spiel for Leeds of, classic English teams, and Sunderland very much so fall under those parameters. I think. You pointed out prior that you don't think they made signings that were good enough to stay in the Premier League. I actually disagree. I think they made a lot of really good underrated signings in a sense. They got Enzo Lafie on a permanent fee. Play on words there, but he was a good player for Sunderland last season. He's a player who. Okay, he might not be the most physical footballer, but he's very technically efficient. Sunderland fans really enjoyed having him last season. I do think the adding of Adingra as well is such a wonderful, wonderful signing. I mean, I saw him rip up Liverpool in the 23-24 season when we went and played Brighton. And he was such an important player at that time. I do think, though, with Matoma, with Minta, they do have a lot of options on the wings. So I think a club like Sunderland, where he's going to get a lot of playing time, is where he can, show that he could potentially be one of the next up-and-coming wingers in the Premier League. And then you have, obviously, Granit Xhaka, a wonderful captain. You saw it his last season at Arsenal. You saw his stint at Leverkusen. He's a wonderful footballer, but also, he's a wonderful leader, and I do think when you're a team in the bottom three, in those relegation zones, you don't just need a good coach, like you said, a good goalkeeper, a good striker, but you need a very good leader as well. So Granit Xhaka is one of the best in the business. And I do think last season, they did very well in the championship. I don't know the championship fans where they had Sunderland, if they had them promoted last season or not, but from what I saw, they did very well. Obviously, losing Job Bellingham is going to be something very, it might have effects, but I think they replaced a lot of their squad well, and I do think, I think they're going to surprise a couple people, especially the ones that have them down in the relegation zone. So yeah, I got Sunderland 17th.
Yep, for me, 17th place, I think it goes to Bournemouth. It's a very surprising pick, but I think that the fact that they probably lost one of the best mid-table defenses that I've personally seen within my 10 years of watching the league, with Kepa, Zabarni, Kirkez, and also Huijsen, I think that's going to be a very, very big straw for how they play, how they build out the back, because I know Iraola is very build out the back, possession-based coach. But I think that their quality at the end of the day, and the fact that they kept their attacking players like Evan Nielsen, and obviously in the left wing Semenyo, I think that's going to really help them out with a lot of games and just getting that last draw or getting that final goal in the final minute. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be a good enough season for Bournemouth to survive.
Fair enough. This one was tough because I was wrestling between putting these guys in 17th or 18th. But I have in 17th, I have Leeds. Just because I feel like sort of on the point of what Gio was saying, they are a very historic Premier League side. who have been sort of in the shadows for far too long. I think they are a team ready to compete in the Premier League. Although, like, I don't think that they're going to have like an overly successful season. Personally, I still think that like they have the experience required to at least compete sufficiently this season with like not like the big teams, but it's especially within the that mid table side. I always feel like, and I've said this a couple times, I feel like in this Premier League season, those mid-table clashes are going to be very up in the air. I don't feel like there's going to be like a lot of sort of favorites going into those like mid-table clashes. So I think Leeds do have an opportunity there to gain points. But that's the main reason. I think that they're ready to like compete in the Premier League to some degree. I just don't feel like they're strong enough to make it past 17th, honestly. But yeah, let's go on to 16th.
Yeah, and in 16th place, I have Wolves. You know, they've lost Cunha, and I do think that is a very, very big loss, right? But what I will say is their manager, and I always never, I'm never able to remember his name. I think it's Victor Pereira. He did come from the
Yes.
Saudi League. I do know that. Um, when he came in last season, he had Wolves playing some nice stuff. I remember it was midway throughout the season. He came in. I think they went to, correct me if I'm wrong, but they went to Spurs Stadium. They won there. I think they won there. They beat United, and obviously United, they finished above those teams. But he came in and he gave some life into that team. So I'm not necessarily saying that he's some type of top level coach, but from what I did see in his small stint in the Premier League, I was surprised. And I do think Wolves do still have quality. Ain't Nuri left as well as Cunha, as I stated before, but I still think that they have a good enough team to where they can compete. They can give any team in the Premier League a very tough run for their money. And, they still have players like Strand Larson, um, who is still a very, competent Premier League striker. And I do feel like I said prior, when you're battling in the bottom positions, you do need a very, very good striker. My only thing is though, I think Jose Sa was, getting to the point last season where you're thinking, okay, is this guy good enough to play for Wolves? Which was kind of tough to see because he's been a very good keeper throughout his career. So for me, I have Wolves 16th. I just think they're a Premier League team that has a good enough squad, good enough quality to stay within the league. So yeah, I got Wolves 16th.
Yeah, and for me, I got for 16th place, I got Sunderland. I think it's going to be. I think one of the most underrated factors about Sunderland is truly the stadium light. Their home form, ever since they've been in the Premier League, has been. They've always been around top 10 in home form within the Premier League for as long as they've been in it. But obviously, since it's a new squad, this is a new team. They lost Joel Bellingham. They barely skimped in the playoffs by barely beating Coventry with a last-minute goal that they probably shouldn't have conceded. But I think Sunderland, they've added they re-signed Enzo Lafite, they got Jaka, they got Adingra. I think they're getting more signings with that as well. I think their fans and the Stadium of the Light's going to give them that edge to survive in this league.
Fair enough. I got Brentford in at 16th. Mainly because like this is purely contingent on if Wisa actually ends up staying, because I think Wisa does provide them a bit of a clutch factor. Obviously, now that Mbeumo's gone, it's going to be really hard for them to compete. But I still think that Wisa can score at least, I want to say, 10 to 15 goals for them this season, which would give them an opportunity. And also, I think that Kelleher stepping in for them this season, again, it's more about that goalkeeping thing that I was talking about earlier. I feel like when you have a solid goalkeeper in the back, you've seen it with Everton, with Pickford. We have a solid goalkeeper. Even though the defense might be slightly shaky, at least you have a little bit of confidence back there. Kelleher, after playing with Liverpool, we all saw him. He's a calm, a collected goalkeeper who knows how to sort of stay composed in especially big moments, which is something you're going to need when you're in a relegation battle. And I think purely based on that, they'll just slightly manage to stay in the Premier League. But obviously, with the loss of Thomas Frank, it means that they're going to have to start considering how they're going to be moving forward and who to properly bring in as a manager to carry them forward. Because if they don't, I feel like if they don't make any significant changes, especially in the next transfer window in the summer, I think that they will be at risk of going down. But yeah, 15th boys, what were you saying?
15th. This might surprise a few people, but I have West Ham at 15th. West Ham have been a team in the past couple years that we've seen them obviously, miraculously win the Conference League. That was a very big moment for West Ham, and obviously they've gone far in the Europa League. I think David Moyes really got the best out of that group of players. Now, you have Graham Potter in that team, and I think last season was such a horrible season just to watch West Ham in general under Julian Lopetegui. I remember they came we played them in the League Cup and we just absolutely smoked them. They weren't even a competition for us. I remember they played Arsenal as well. They got smoked as well when we played them in their stadium. It was what was it? It was 5-0, 6-0. It was
Mm.
something insane. So for me, I think that was a lot of it was down to Julian Lopetegui, and Graham Potter came in and he established a more solidified defense for West Ham, but I do think losing a player like Mohamed Kudus, who granted didn't have the best season for West Ham last season. I think, the season prior he was lighting it up in Europe, but last season he was a bit poor. I think Lucas Paqueta just got cleared off of his charges. I think his gambling charges, so maybe that might see an uptick in his form. You got players like Jared Bowen for me, who is one of the best players outside of that traditional top six. I think every season he steps up, he performs for West Ham. He'll score 10 plus goals. He'll get you 5 plus assists all the time. He scores in big moments for them. So I think they still have that quality to stay up. I just don't know if Graham Potter is the same coach as he was at Brighton. And I don't know if he can get the best out of these players. They signed that Diouf left back from, I think it was Sparta Prague. He's an up and coming talent. He's got a wand of a left foot, but I don't know if just signing him. I don't know much about their signings. So I have West Ham at 15th, but you never know.
Yeah, pretty much the same with me for 15th. I got West Ham. I think that's going to be I think West Ham, the way they ended off last season with Potter, I didn't look at it as very positive, and obviously the Kudos is going to be a very big loss for them. I think structurally they have a lot of problems, West Ham, for the way they build up with their 3-4-3, and attacking wise, it's going to be an unsolved issue as well because obviously Antonio's coming back from that. Fulkrug didn't have a good season there, and yeah, I think they're going to struggle attacking wise. Potter's not the strongest defensive coach as well, so. I think 15 is a fair position. I don't be just because of the quality of players they have, like Bowen. I think they're just gonna and Paqueta as well. I think they're gonna stay up.
All right, guys, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but I have West Ham at 15th. I don't know how we managed to do that.
Didn't even see each other's predictions.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. That's crazy. Okay, I'm just gonna say ditto, and we'll move on to number 14. But go on, Gio.
And for 14th, I have Fulham. Now I don't know if they've signed anyone up until this point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Luke or Kareem, but I don't know any player that Fulham have signed. Like, I was looking at this a couple days ago, and I was looking at each team's transfers, and other than like those young players that they signed from academies, I don't see any top player that Fulham have signed. Now they do have a good squad. They have Raul Jimenez. Iwobi is obviously a very good footballer. Emil Smith Rowe, I think, failed to impress. I think he's a better footballer than what he did show last season. And they still have Calvin Bassey at the back. Leno is a very sturdy keeper, but I feel like in the Premier League, if you're not signing players, you're stagnating, and that's the worst that you can be in the Premier League. You see it every single season, whether it's the relegated teams, whether it's the mid-table teams, and of course the top six teams always seem to strengthen. If you don't strengthen in the Premier League, you're just gonna be left behind. And I think Fulham, I think they had a good season last season. Obviously it tailed off towards the end, but I think they played very well, and I think they're a team that has always been in the thorn of the top six sides, particularly. So, but I think their coach is a very good coach. I think Silva is someone that could be seen by not to disrespect Fulham, but a bigger club in the future say for example Newcastle ever sack Eddie Howe or Villa ever leave part ways with Unai Emery, I feel like, Silva could step in that role and do very well. So I think purely based on him being a very good coach, I think Fulham in 14th is where I have them. They could go a little higher, but pushing European spots like they could have potentially last season, I just don't see it.
Yeah, and 14th for me, I got Leeds. I think it is a very high pick according to like the normal standard of what everyone's got Leeds at. But I think 14th because they've built in the championship for a very long time, and I think they should have got promoted twice actually. But within each of their failures of not getting promoted, I think they've been a stronger team with how they've improved internally. And obviously, Falk is not the strongest manager, but at the end of the day, I think he's got Premier League experience and he's German. And he did very well for the last club he's in within the Bundesliga. But I think, I think 14th is a good prediction for Leeds for the type of players they had for how they've improved internally. And I know Ellen Roll's a very, very tough ground to go to, just as my experience with them playing against them at Arsenal, for watching them play.
Yeah. Good. So I have Bournemouth in at number 14. I still think that they have quality, but I think where they've really lost a lot of punch is in their defense, which was really good last season. And I think their defense is what saved them a lot of times last season in some of those high, like the tougher battles that they played. I mean, I'm pretty sure we did the double over them last season, but I remember every time we did play them, they were very solid back there, and they gave us a tough fight. So, but they've lost that with Huijsen obviously going to Real Madrid. Kirk has come into the beautiful Liverpool Football Club. So I think from that perspective, they do lose a lot. Huijsen being great on the ball, Kirk has been great moving forward, and then obviously defensively they're not going to be as strong. So yeah, Bournemouth in at number 14 for me. Let's get into number 13. What you got, Gio?
13th, I have Crystal Palace, and I'm not trying to be a salty Liverpool fan. This is filmed after the Community Shield, so I promise this is not based on that. But sorry, my earbud fell out. I think though, the transfer market is always an important role when you're evaluating your Premier League predictions. And at the moment, they look like they could lose Marguehi to Liverpool. They look like they could lose Eze to either Spurs or Arsenal. And obviously, Glasner is a great coach. He won the FA Cup last season with that squad. It was a very big achievement. And now you've gone to Wembley and you've beaten City and Liverpool, which is not an easy feat, especially as the Crystal Palace manager. But I do think if they lose Eze and Gehi, which I am expecting, I think they're only good enough for 13th. But another season of Mateta Masterclass, I think, is incoming. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, 13th, I've got Fulham. I think for a lot of the stable reasons is that they're ensuring themselves as a Premier League team, a true Premier League team, because I think Marco Silva's had a lot of development as a manager ever since his Sporting days to Watford to Everton. I think every club that he's been at, he's just been really better. And I think the individual quality they have with Smith Rowe, Muniz had a really good run last year as well. He's still going to get you a lot of assists, and their defense is very, very solid with Bassi. And Leno, and obviously goalkeeper. Left back Anthony Robinson, he got 10 assists last season, so he was very efficient. And I think it's going to be a strong team that's just going to stabilize itself in the Premier League. And I think Silva potentially is good enough to get an Aston Villa role if Emery ever leaves for a bigger club. So, yeah, I got Fulham 13th.
Fair enough. I got Everton at 13th, actually. New stadium. I know this might be a bit of a silly reason, but new stadium, you never know how the players are going to adjust to the new atmosphere. I mean, obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I hope they don't adjust. They made a good signing in Jack Grealish, in my opinion, as much as people want to say 100 million flop, whatever. I think he's still a good player. I think he still has a lot to show, but perhaps he wasn't ready for Pep's system. And perhaps at Everton, he seems to already be buying into the project, and he's ready to show the world what he can do. And I think he does have a lot to prove, and I think he's ready to do that. So I think that's really good for them. Obviously, they still got Pickford. They still got a solid defender in Tarkowski, who I think can perform in the big games. But it is for me just that new stadium factor. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to be sort of the Everton that everybody wants them to be, the Everton that everybody thinks that they can be. But I think 13th is still a very respectable place for them.
And in 12th place, I have Everton. I do think a lot of what you said. I will say though, I do think there is a really good feel factor around Everton at the moment. I
Mhm.
do think that stadium is going to help them.
Mhm.
They have a wonderful fan base. We saw that at Goodison Park. They're their class. But what I will say though, I really like their signings.
Mhm.
I really like their signings. They have Beto and that Barry guy. He's 6'5". I can just see David Moyes setting up with Beto and Barry up front, and they're just going to be a horrible team to play against. Alongside Kieran Dewsbury Hall, you have Jack Grealish, who has, he has something to prove. I'm not that 100 million pound flop. I'm that player that was quality at Aston Villa that was causing all these teams problems. And you have Azunu as well. They signed from Bayern. He's a young player. And I think who else did they sign? That's pretty much who they have as well. They're linked with Tyler Dibling. If they get that guy, I mean, they're looking very good. So for me, I have Everton in 12th, but
Mhm.
I think they could surprise a lot of people this season.
Mhm.
Yeah, and for 12th place for me, I got Crystal Palace. I think that Steve Parish has done a very wonderful job with that club as a chairman. He's stabilized themselves ever since they got promoted in 13-14. That was their first season in the Prem. They've pretty much stabilized themselves within from 10th to 14th. So every year they've been around that range. So I don't think anything's going to be any different because I think they've done really, really well with Glasner as the coach. And I think that I think that I know they're going to lose Eze and probably they might lose Eze and they might lose Gahey, but I think that Mateta and the other quality in the squad is going to shine, therefore shine more. Their 3-4-3 structure is very good, heavy counterattacking football. I think Nketiah is going to have a better season than last year, and yeah, I got Crystal Palace 12.
Nice. I actually have Brighton in 12th. I was considering putting them higher, but obviously with the loss of Joao Pedro, I feel like that's really going to hit them hard. But the thing is about Brighton is one thing I've learned is I never underestimate them just because I feel like that they're an absolute like sensational breeding ground for young talent, and they know how to use that young talent. So has been rumors of certain players. I think Baleba to I think there was interest from United.
Yeah.
But I mean that's not concrete. So I still think that like they're a very quality side. I would have had them higher again if João Pedro didn't leave because obviously he was doing really well for them. But they still have some like really like quality players. So yeah, the Brighton at 12.
And then 11th, I have Bournemouth. A lot of people have been talking about them losing their whole back line, which very, very good. It's a good argument to make. They have replaced though. They replaced Kepa with Petrovic. And I watched him save a penalty against my nation, so I understand that he's a decent goalkeeper. And they've replaced Kirkez with a fullback from Rennes. I forgot his name, but he's a young talent as well. And I think they just signed the center back from Leeds as well. They still have Araujo who plays on that right hand side, and they still have Senesi who is still a competent Premier League defender. And I mean, they kept their front line for me, which was almost as important as their back line last season with Semenyo, with Justin Kluivert, with Otara, and then Evan Nielsen as well is a very underrated mid-table striker for me, and I think a lot of it relies on Andy Iraola. I think he's a top coach. I think he's tactically a bit like Thomas Frank. He's very flexible, but he also plays a very attacking football, which is something I respect from those coaches that are coaching a side that's mid-table to relegation zone. I think Bournemouth are a bit better than that, but yeah, that's why I have Bournemouth in 11th, and I think they could surprise a lot of people. I think they could crack that top 10, maybe even European places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, for me, I think I got Everton 11th. I think the fact that their new stadium is going to really bolster them, and the stability that Moyes offers to any Premier League club is going to be a huge factor to anyone. And their uniqueness for the style of play that they play is kind of kick and rush football with. And Ndiaye had a really big role for them last year. Beto scored a lot of clutch goals. Parkowski really stabilized the back for them. Pickford, they still have Pickford, one of the best keepers in the league, in my opinion. And I think the way that they're formatted as a team, as a club, they're heading in the right direction. rather than keeping on Sean Dyche and just hoping for the best. So I think 11th for Everton's a very fair prediction.
Yeah, and at number 11 for me, I have Fulham. I still think that Fulham, like Gio mentioned this time, they didn't really change too much, which I think is actually going to be in their favor, if I'm being honest, because last season, Fulham, first of all, they have Craven Cottage, which is a tough ground to go to. But they also have like Muniz, for example, who really impresses me. And I feel like he's only going to go up from here. They have Jimenez, and I feel like, and they also have Leno in the back. So I feel like they still have that core of really important players that produced for them last season. And because it's stable and there hasn't been much change, I think that that's actually going to help them. But Fulham has always been for me like a bit of, like a mid-table club, so I think that's where they're going to stay. So that's why I have them in a number 11.
And for me, I have Forest 10th. Forest have been doing a lot of let's just say mafia moves this summer. Obviously Morgan Gibbs White was supposed to go to Spurs, and logically they paid the release clause, and the big man stepped in, and he made some calls, and he got a picture with him and told him, "Look, you better smile or else." So look, I think Forest they have a good team. I think Nuno surprised me as someone who wasn't really a Nuno believer last season. I think he kind of turned me into a believer. So they have a good team, and I think they're gonna stay within that top 10. But I think with Europa League football, I think it is gonna mess up with them a little bit. So I have Forest in 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, same for me for Forest 10th. I got them 10th just because I think the end of last season they were very poor, because a lot of the season up until March, I remember they were in third place at one point, and they're just staying within there. They're grinding out results till match day 28, 29. They were staying in third place, but within those 9-10 games, they really stagnated and fell off, in my opinion. And I think that's due to just the fatigue of the squad and the rising expectations of the club within that form. But I don't think that getting Europa League football is going to help them out a lot. Maybe revenue-wise, it'll help them out a lot. But I think within the league, they're going to really weaken and dampen. But I think I think Ndoye is a really strong signing. It's a really good replacement within that right wing spot. But yeah, Nottingham 10th.
I have Nottingham Forest in 10th. I still think that they're I'm just going to say this and then we'll move on, but I still think that they're super solid defensively. I think that Nuno is a very adaptable manager, very smart manager. And yeah, I think last season they finished, what was it, 7th?
Yeah, 7th, yeah.
Yeah, it was 7th, yeah.
7th. I think they will slip up a little bit just because they have that extra bit of football to play, which is not because we saw how, as more games went by and as the season progressed, we did start to see a small dip in their form. I feel like adding more games to that will obviously contribute to that. Now, 10th place is still very respectable, and I think that a lot of the reasons why I have them above everybody that I have obviously before is because of their defense. But yeah, Forest then at number 10th. What we got at number 9 to you?
And they could always win the Europa League, so you never know. In 9th, I have Brighton. Brighton are a team for me that I think are very, very underlooked at this year. I think last season they had a really big injury crisis, and they still managed to stay. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 points within the top 5. Like, it wasn't that much of a gap, and they had a big injury crisis. Like you said, they're a breeding ground for young talent. I think Herzler is an exciting coach. He plays exciting football. They have a very exciting team. So yeah, I have them 9th, and they have no European football. So I think if they fully focus on the Premier League, I'm rating them very highly, and I have them in 9th place. So maybe that is a bit of a counterpoint, but yeah, I think they could become higher than 9th, and I think maybe a domestic cup run, maybe an FA Cup or a League Cup in there too. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Brighton, 9th place. Yeah, but I don't know. I think Brighton are gonna kind of level off. I don't think they're gonna get as many injuries this year. I think Fabian Herzl is gonna really, he's gonna really tactically adjust to losing Pedro. Stepinian, Adigra. And I think that the signings they've made have been really strong. Obviously, that Greek guy at striker, he's really good, really sought out for. And Arsenal were linked to him as well. But at the end of the day, he went to Brighton for 35 million. And then you got that left back that came from Club Brugge. I think he's a very talented player as well. I think Caglioglu is going to be very, very sought out for this year in the right back spot.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, he's going to be a very, very underrated player. Because I think he only played like 5 games last year. One of those games was against Liverpool, and he did really good at Enfield. So
Yeah.
I think I got Brighton 9th as well.
You know, one thing that we didn't mention, Brighton lost to Stupinian, no?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
did.
lost. Yeah, they
Milan.
lost Estupinian, João Pedro, and I forgot Evan
Adingra.
Ferguson left. But
Mhm.
Adingra.
All right.
And
In at number 9, I have Villa. So Villa for me was a bit of an interesting one, just because I still think that they're a really good side. I think that when Marcus Rashford came in, he was playing really well for them. Obviously, he's gone to Barcelona. I'm pretty sure same thing. Asensio went back to PSG, I think.
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So they lost players that were coming off the bench for them in certain situations, and obviously doing a lot of work for them. And certain players were obviously, these same players were also starting for them a decent amount. So losing that, I think it's going to be tough. The Emi Martinez situation, tough. I still think that they have like a solid squad. I think that Ollie Watkins is a very top level striker. I think arguably top 5 in the Prem, which is very important for for like mid-table clashes. I think that they might struggle a little bit more this season against like Big 6 clubs in bigger games, but they have Villa Park, which is obviously super important for them. So overall, I think that Villa. Villa finished. Was it 8th?
6th.
Sixth.
Where was
6th?
It was 6th.
Sixth last season. I think they will drop off a little bit, but I still think that there's quality there. All right, boys, what are we saying at number 8?
Number 8, I have Manchester United. Look, I'm a Liverpool fan, so there might be a bit of bias coming from that aspect of it. They've done very well in the summer. They signed Mateus Cunha, Benjamin Sesko, Brian Mbeumo. Mbeumo and Cunha were 2 of the most, highly top performing attacking players in the Premier League, maybe players in the Premier League last season in general. I still think Ruben Amorim has a lot to prove in this league. I still think, you're looking at their back line. Yeah, Heaven is a good young talent, but can he do it in his first season? Lenny Euro is still young. Maguire, as much as Amorim might rate him, isn't a top level center back, and I think Lisandro Martinez is a very overrated footballer, and I think you got Andre Onana in goal is it's not looking good. And their midfield as well, I don't think they've strengthened in midfield enough. I think, Casemiro, Bruno, and I think, Kobe Mino hasn't been implemented that much, but yeah, I have United in 8th place.
Yeah, and for me, similar spot to Cream, but I got Aston Villa at eighth place. I think that they're going to really focus and prioritize the Europa League, like every Unai Emery team does. And I think this year they haven't really gotten much better. I know they just lost Jacob Ramsey as well as Asensio and Rashford from last season. I think that they're going to really prioritize Europa League this year. I think they're going to win the Europa League this year, and I think that 8th place is a fair enough finish for them, considering the buildup of the squad for how they tactically set up. They're a stronger defensive team. I think Pau Torres is a really good center back. I mean, might leave. I don't know, but yeah, I think 8th place for Villa seems fair considering they have a lot of competition this year.
Mm-hmm. For me, number 8, I got Tottenham Hotspurs. I do rate Thomas Frank. I think he's a quality manager. Obviously, we've seen what he was able to do with Brentford. And coming into the Spurs side that has made solid additions, mind you. I think some of us were expecting them to add Morgan Gibbs-White, which never ended up happening. But they still have made some solid additions in the likes of like Mohamed Kudus, for example, which I think that he will perform really well. If he stays healthy, obviously, he'll be really good for them. But for me, I think their bread and butter this season really lies in that back four. I mean, you got Vicario in net, who's a very solid keeper. Again, if he stays fit, I think he's maybe top 7, top 5 keepers in the Prem. Yeah, probably top 5 actually. But then you have the likes of Mickey Van de Ven, again, if healthy, quality center back. You have Pedro Porro, who I think is really good going forward. It's a good fullback option for him. And again, it's all depends. I mean, they lost Sun over the summer to LAFC, but I think his time was slowly coming to an end anyway. So it wasn't like it's a leadership loss as much more than it is, for example, a loss in like a prime player, for example.
Yeah, and quality.
Yeah, exactly. So for that reason, I think that they'll improve on last season because it's very, very hard for them to not improve. They have Champions League football, which will be tough for them, obviously, to sort of balance everything. But I think they will improve, and I think 8 is pretty fair for them.
In 7th, I have Aston Villa. I think we all have Villa in the similar spot. Luke made a good point. I think every Emery team kind of prioritizes the Europa League. You saw that at Sevilla, you saw that at Villarreal, and you're going to see that at Aston Villa as well. So I think they might win the Europa League. They'll definitely push for it. I think the fact that they lost, like you said, Kareem, Marcus Rashford, and Marcus Asensio, and they haven't really replaced those players adequately. I don't think they're gonna push for that top 6, but I still think they're gonna be a very, very tough team to go away to and pick up 3 points to.
Yeah, and 7th place for me, I got Newcastle. I think this is before everything goes on with Isaac to confirm whether he's staying at the club or leaving the club. But within my assumption, I'm just going to assume that he's leaving the club. So I think 7th place is going to be a very fair prediction for them because obviously they have Alenga now. He got a lot of Premier League assists last year. He's very creative. Their midfield still within intact within their key players in Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joelinton. And I think their attack going to be very bolstered as well because I think they're going to get Visa. I think they're going to get someone else in attack as well. Samuel Varinian probably, but yeah, no, I think Newcastle 7th place is fair too. And fixture congestion within the Champions League, I don't think they have a deep enough squad to fully go for Champions League and for the Premier League as well. So I think 7th is a good prediction.
Fair enough. I have perhaps a bit of recency bias, but I have Palace in at number 7. Palace traditionally a very like mid-table 12th place FC kind of club. I just think that with Oliver Glasner, after a season under his belt with the club, and obviously winning 2 trophies, whatever you want to call the Community Shield, let's call it a trophy. Why not?
Yeah,
Exactly. You know what I mean? So, well, but he did that not in any fashion, but also by defeating Liverpool Football Club and Manchester City, while essentially countering them in every possible way. I think he's a very high quality manager. I'm making this prediction assuming that there are no more outgoings, but we all know that there's very possible that there are certain players that might leave, like the Eze that Gio mentioned, or Gahey, for example, to Liverpool. That's still possible, but I think despite that, because Glasner, I feel, has shown that he can go up against high level sides in high level moments and adapt. I think that even if he were to lose certain players, I think that he'd still be able to adapt. Maybe he'll like my prediction will change if those players do leave, but I really rate this side. I think that they can do well. They don't have Europa League football because of some weird stipulation. I think so. They've been demoted to the Conference League. But still, I mean, it's extra football, so we'll see. But I think Palace is a really good side, honestly.
Okay.
For me, I have Newcastle in 6th. A lot of points that Luke made. I think Champions League fixture congestion is gonna really mess with them. Obviously, hoping Alexander Isak goes to Liverpool is gonna be a big loss for them. But I do still think they have a very quality side. They have one of the one of the most quality midfield trios that we've seen. I mean, I call them, the band of bullies. That every time you play those 3, it feels like one of your players is just gonna have a tough time. So Newcastle, St. James's Park, nobody wants to play there. Eddie Howe, I think, is a good coach still. I think Newcastle will get 6th, and I still think they could get Champions League football, but Losing Isak is going to be tough for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go on, Luke.
And yeah, sixth place for me, I got Manchester United. It's a very weird pick because obviously they finished very low in the Premier League last year with 15th. But you know, I think Manchester United have spent a lot of money, even though they're considering themselves broke. And you know, allegedly they would have ran out of money last year if they kept the club the same way. But you know, 250 million later, they got Shesko, Cunha, and Buemo. Diallo is a very he's going to be a very underrated player as well because he's their best attacker last year and he's very productive in very big games like against Manchester City. And I mean, even looking at their back line, obviously Onana's a very big flaw, but they had a lot of injuries in the back line last year, and I think when Lissandro comes back, he's going to be a competent enough defender. I think De Ligt is a very big loss. When he played very well. And I think within the right center back spot, they could obviously maybe put Mazraoui there if they want to flow the ball more, or they could have someone else within that department. But you know, I think United are a strong enough team, and they spent a lot of money this summer to having to finish top six. I think that's their goal as well, to be top six.
Yeah, similarly, Luke, I have United in at number 6 as well. I think one thing that's really good that they've done is they've recruited players from Premier League proven players. Obviously minus Sesko, but you have obviously Cunha coming in and Buemo coming in. These are Premier League proven players. They've shown that they are able to score in the Premier League and perform in the Premier League, which is really good for them. Amorim with the season under his belt. I mean, he joined United last year at November, so he pretty much has a season under his belt with the club. Enough time you would say to implement some kind of like cohesive system. I do think he's a good manager. I just think that like sometimes you hop into a club that was as disjointed as they were last season. It is a little bit tough. But he has shown with his squad that like they can play decent football, but maybe not all the time. The other factor is the Old Trafford factor. I know they lost quite a few games at Old Trafford last season, but sometimes you feel like it's about damn time that Old Trafford becomes the fortress that it once was, and perhaps this is a season for them to return to like maybe not full force Old Trafford form, but at least not losing 300 games at fucking Old Trafford. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing. So I think their attack will be really good. Sesko, I think he's a good striker. Again, he's not a Premier League proven striker yet, but that's I think the only like I would say like I don't know what's the word like unknown. Yeah, the only unknown perhaps unknown. in that. Midfield wise, I think the way that they play with the four in the midfield, I think Dorgu's really good. I think they have a lot of options going down the right side. You could play Ahmad there, you could play Mazraoui there, you could play Dallo there, and then you got Ugarte, who I think he's not like maybe like the hottest thing that people were talking about when he was like since he was came from Sporting, obviously with his stint at PSG. It wasn't like amazing, and for United he's been whatever, but I still think he's a quality player. I think Bruno is a really like underrated player by everybody, not Manchester United fans. So it's definitely, I think they're good. I just think that we'll have to see what happens with that back three. Euro, second season at United, will he be able to sort of push his talent further and further? You have De Ligt, who I think he's pretty solid, and then Lisandro Martinez is Mr. Injury. So I don't know, but United number 6. Let's go to number 5, boys.
Number 5, I have Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur. I think we're filming this as they just played PSG, and some people might say it's the Spurs gene. They were up 2-0 and 6 minutes left, and they bottled it, and it was 2-2. But I do think if you watch that game, I think structurally, Thomas Frank showed that he is just a top-level tactician. He played a 3-5-2, and some people going into the game were like, what the hell is this? How is Richarlison and Kudos going to work? But it did work, and like I kind of made the points for Brentford earlier on in the video. A lot of their success came from Thomas Frank, and I do think a lot of the success this season is going to come from Thomas Frank. If they hadn't signed the players they had this year, I would have had them a bit lower because I do think them being in the Champions League this season is going to affect them a little bit, but I think they shored up their team well enough to be able to compete in the Champions League and in the league. Paulinho is a great signing. Obviously, he didn't do very well at Bayern, but I think, he had a lot of personal issues going on, and I do think he can, repeat the form that he did have at Fulham. Mohamed Kudus, wonderful footballer. They're still linked with Eze, so for me, I think I think Spurs are going to have a very good season, and I think it's all down to Thomas Frank. If Thomas Frank does well, Spurs will do well, and if he doesn't do well, then obviously I don't think Spurs will do as well as they will. But yeah, I have Spurs fifth.
Yep, going on to the point that you just made, I got Spurs. I got Spurs fifth as well. Unfortunately, I'm an Arsenal fan. I don't like Spurs. Hate Spurs. But I gotta take the bias out. I think they've done really well in this transfer market with the attacking additions, especially. And I mean, they still got a lot of players that they could play that aren't even starting. They got Brennan Johnson. They got Kulichevsky, and I think they're brilliant players off the bench. Considering they still got Champions League football too, I think they've added enough firepower to where they could adapt in both settings within the Champions League and the Premier League. And what I do really like about Thomas Frank is that he establishes a structure in every single team he has. So he always has a base of players. He always plays within a zone, within marking or within counterattacking. He doesn't like to overcomplicate his football, which I think was probably the biggest problem with Ange Postecoglou. But I think with the players he has, I think he's going to do very well. And they have a really talented group of players like Van de Ven, Udogie, Porro, Romero. Their backline's talented, but if they could somehow get that structure within there, I think they're going to be a very prominent Premier League side and potentially get Champions League.
Nice. All right, and at number 5 for me though, I have Newcastle. I think I'll echo a lot of the similar statements that you guys said. I think St. James's Park, obviously, a very tough ground to play on if you're an away team. There is a little bit of a unknown with this club at the moment with Alexander Isak again. If he manages to go, and even if he doesn't go and he stays, I don't even think that like the relationship is there anymore for him to play anyway. So I think that bridge has been severed, burned, whatever you want to say. But that being said, extremely high quality midfield. Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Tonali. They have a good defensive system going for them. I think Livramento is I don't know if any of you guys have talked about Livramento, but Livramento is an incredible player. I think that he's only going to get he had a really good season last season, but I think he'll flourish even more this season. Eddie Howe is a good manager. And for me, I still feel like they pack enough of a punch up front for them to compete. You have the Champions League football aspect, which again does sort of to clutter their schedule a little bit. But that being said, I still think that if they manage to stay healthy, which has always been such an important thing for Newcastle season after season, it's been something that's have been holding them back is the injuries, right? But if they manage to stay healthy, I think that they will rightfully take 5th place. Let's move on to 4th place, guys. This is the big 4. We're getting closer to the end of the video, but this is where the big boys lie. And from everything that I've heard, it seems that we all have the same 4 teams in our top 4. But we'll just, I'm curious to see what the order is. Gio, hit us with number 4, please.
With number 4, I have the Club World Cup champions. I have Chelsea in 4th. I think Chelsea are a very, very good team. Obviously, this has been the most successful season, in their project. I do think, last season, Enzo Maresca did do very well in the beginning of the season. They were in a title race as much as their fans wanted to deny it. They were in a title race halfway throughout the season, and I think, that's going to give a lot of experience to these players. In the middle of the season, though, they did fall off. You saw players like Cole Palmer had a very, very poor middle part of the season, but they salvaged it by winning the Conference League, finishing in the top 4, and winning the Club World Cup. I think they've signed very, very good players. I think João Pedro is a very talented footballer. Um, he's going to be leading that front line. They signed a backup in Liam Delap. So what that means for Nicholas Jackson's future, we don't know necessarily. They got, Binu Gittins on that left-hand side, which doesn't make sense to me because if they're going to sign Garnacho as well, who's going to be your starting left winger there? Obviously, they're still in for Xavi Simmons as well. I do think, though, is a player that is going to, affect them this season is going to be the loss of Levi Colwell. I think he's a very important player to that back line, and I do think him being out for majority of the season um, is going to hurt them. Obviously, they signed Joel Hato, who is a very talented player. I would have loved him at Liverpool, but he went to Chelsea. So yeah, for me, I think Chelsea are fourth, and I think they're going to have a deep Champions League run this season too. That's probably my hot take, if it even is a hot take at this point.
Yeah, same for me. I got Chelsea fourth. I think a lot of the factors that will contribute them to being fourth place would just be their pure quality in attack and midfield. I think Caicedo will probably be probably one of the best DMs in the league last year, alongside Gravenberch. I think that the addition of João Pedro is going to be a very big one with how they link up play and how they actually flow as a team. But I think the only thing that lingers them into not considering them an elite team would probably just be their back line. I think the loss of obviously Levi Cole, as Gio mentioned, is probably one of the biggest losses in their team. I think they still got to go out in the market, get a center back as well as a goalkeeper. I don't think Robert Sanchez is good enough. And I think the injury update for whether Reece James stays fit, I think is going to play a big factor into that as well. But they've reinforced a lot within their attack, their defense. I don't think it's good enough to get them past that fourth place spot. But yeah, I got Chelsea fourth.
Yeah, I got Chelsea fourth as well, guys. I think what's been interesting to see is just how versatile Enzo Maresca is as a manager. Because if you guys have been keeping up, like obviously with how they've been playing, he hasn't been sticking to one specific formation. I've seen Reece James play at right back, for example. I've seen Reece James play as part of a double pivot with Caicedo. I've seen, he's definitely experimenting with. I know with all that experimentation, right? You can kind of, as a manager, obviously adapt to what works, and obviously team for team, you can start playing different styles, which is good. If that you have those kinds of players that can adapt to different styles, it's really good for you, I think, over the course of a season. I think Cole Palmer will be back to his best, in my opinion. I think a lot of players have found their own identity in the team. I think João Pedro is an incredible player. I think Pedro Neto is really slept on. Caicedo is Caicedo, so we don't have to speak on that. I think Enzo Fernandez is really good. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. I think Enzo Fernandez is really good. And the only thing that you guys had mentioned, which is like perhaps a bit of a sticky situation, is the fact that you have like brothers like Chalobah, Disasi, Badiashile as your like main center backs. Levi Colwell obviously going down. They've added Hato, which is good, but I think with the way that they set up their team and they play often 4-2-3-1, I'm pretty sure. They have that, like, I think they have what it takes in the likes of a Caicedo and the likes of an Enzo and the likes of a Reece James to fortify that defense more in that middle of the park. So overall, it's not going to be like amazing for them based on the players they have at center back, but I still think that the way that they set themselves up is really going to sort of benefit them defensively. So I think Chelsea will be all right. Let's move on to number 3, though, guys.
Yeah, we're entering the top 3. We're entering the big hitters. So when I was thinking of who to put in third, I have Manchester City in third, but they're such a polarizing team for me specifically, because on the one hand, I look at their team and I see, okay, you have Pep Guardiola, who in my opinion is still the best coach in the world. You have Erling Haaland. You have Marmoush, who last season was, in my opinion, such an exciting footballer to watch. You have Phil Foden, who did have a poor season, but we understand his quality. They still have such a great team. They added Cherky. They added Reinders, who I absolutely adore as a footballer, by the way. They added Ain't Nouri. And you're looking at that team and you're thinking, there's such an exciting team. Obviously, they still have Rodri, who I think he's out until September now, mid-September.
Yeah.
So that that
Yeah.
could affect their form in the beginning of the season. But a lot of positives I do see, and then I look at the flip side. I look at their defense, and I see, okay, well, Ait Nouri is a very, able attacking fullback, but defensively, we know he doesn't, he doesn't accelerate in that attribute. The back two defenders, you have Ruben Diaz, who I don't think has been a top center back for a couple seasons now, maybe since their treble winning year. Actually, 23-24, he was still a very able center back. But you have Vardio and that right back spot. At the moment, they have Mateus Nunes. Now, Mateus Nunes is a very good footballer, but I don't think he's the best right back, right? So I think they were linked with Tino Livramento
Hmm.
earlier in the transfer window, and if they had gotten him, a lot of my worries about their defense would have changed. But I do think it's tough. I think at the moment I have them third, but I definitely think this top three, the three teams that we have left remaining, I think they're all going to finish within a couple points of one
Hmm.
another, and I think City are going to be a very dangerous team in the cup games. So yeah, I think City third, but I would not be surprised if they finish second or even won the league. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, same thing with me. I think I got City third place as well. I think probably the biggest limitations about their team is just purely like how they need to restructure the back line. Because on one hand, I think they're going to set up within the back four of Ait Nouri, Vardiol, Ruben Diaz, and Kusanov. I think Kusanov's going to be very big for them this year. But I think that that'll essentially attacking wise, it'll be a back three. Ait Nouri's going to bomb it down the wing. And I just think the midfield, Reiner's, Rodri's obviously very strong, but that attacking midfielder spot's going to be very lingering to them because I know they got Cherokee, I know they have Phil Foden, they got all these players, but at the end of the day, Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, when they're at their best, they're the best. They're some of the best players in the world, and I think in those central spaces, they really helped out Phil Foden too. And I think this year
Mhm.
we're going to really see Foden kind of struggle within being that lone 10 or that lone creator in a sense because I think City now this year, seeing in the second half of last year, they played very counterattacking style so that they could try to grind out results because they didn't have Rodri. And obviously, Kevin, the two players I mentioned before, Silva and De Bruyne, they weren't at their best. So I think it's going to be the same story as last season. They're going to be counterattacking centric, with Marmoush being a crucial player within that, Erling Haaland, and hopefully Savinho if he stays there. And I hope they don't sign Rodrigo because that'd be very bad for the league. But
Jesus.
yeah, no, I got City third.
I have Arsenal third. I think for me, between Arsenal, I'm not gonna say it actually because it's gonna spoil it. So, I have Arsenal number three. I think that player for player, they have like really good talent. And I think they have actually, like, despite what people have been saying, I think they have recruited decently well. I think Jokers is gonna be really good for him. I think Saka, if he stays fit, will be so important to unleash Gyökeres, and sort of they can play off each other really well. I think their left side, perhaps. I know they've signed Madueke. Sorry, I know they signed Madueke, but it's a bit of a weird one with that one because he wasn't really consistently starting for Chelsea, so you could say like he's Premier League proven, quote unquote. But it would be interesting to see how he plays. You have Martinelli, who's been in a bit of a slump for, I want to say, season and a half now. Whether he can return to the Martinelli that was crushing Liverpool in 2022, 2023, I don't know. But he's also a factor. You got Trossard as well. There, Jesus, who I believe is still injured, right, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus is still injured, so he's not really going to be a factor. So that's the front three with perhaps still a little bit of question marks there. But that being said, I think that their claim to fame is that back four, their defense. They have David Raya in goal as well, who I think is a very slept on keeper. They have Calafiori, Timber, Lewis Skelly, Gabriel Saliba, all really quality talents in their own right, which I think serves them well when you consider the competitions they're going to be playing in, and obviously making far pushes in the Premier League. But that being said, for me, we see like if one of your two star center backs goes down, it creates a big problem for Arsenal. You have Kivior who can come in, but obviously he's not of the quality of a Gabriel or Saliba. My favorite signing, though, for Arsenal has to be, I think, Zubamendi. I think he fits into the team really well. I think he's your biggest dark horse in that team this season in terms of how you guys are going to perform. I think we've seen a lot of like moments of quality in preseason for you guys with Zubamendi. So I think he's going to be a player to watch. That being said, and similar, I'm going to echo what Gio said. Arsenal could very well go on and win the league. You know, it just really depends on how certain players click, and obviously their captain is big, Odegaard. How he's going to click with the other with the rest of the squad, and not just that, but if he's going to return to the form that we all know he can play at. Because I do still think that he's a very high quality midfielder. Whatever Arsenal fans want to think or other fans want to think, I still think he has talent. We just got to see if he kind of sort of comes back. And Kai Havertz has put on some meat. So pause. So perhaps he either serves as a good option behind Gyökeres, or he or he comes in as a substitution for Gyökeres. So we'll definitely wait to see. But I have Arsenal at number 3. Let's move on to the big 2. Let's go, Gio. Hey.
Yes, the top 2, and pivoting off your point, I have Arsenal at second. The thing for me is not quality with this Arsenal squad, and I don't think it always has been. For me, they have a very good defense. For the past, I think it's been 3 seasons in a row, they've had the best defensive record in the league. Their midfield is very strong. Like you said, they have added Zubamendi, to Rice and Odegaard. If they can get in Eze as well, that's just a wonderful midfield there. My only issue is with Gyökeres. I do think he will perform at Arsenal, but that only relies on, for me, is if Mikel Arteta can change the system in a point where it's funneling for Gyökeres. And I don't think the thing with Arteta is that, seeing from last season, I don't think he's being as tactically flexible as he was in the prior season, the 2 seasons prior. I think he was a bit stubborn last season, which kind of did lead to Arsenal not performing well in the league. And so I think when it comes to the Champions League, I still think they have a very competent team. I think this team is actually much more suited to knockout competitions, in my opinion. But I do think I think Arteta having to change the system this season for Gyökeres to succeed, I think is going to be something that, I'm making a prediction. I don't think he's going to nail it per se, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal win the league. I mean, we said they're a striker away, and they do have that striker now, so I could be completely wrong. So, yeah, I have Arsenal second.
Yeah. So second place for me. Me personally put Liverpool, but
Yeah, of course.
obviously on paper. Yeah. On paper, they definitely have the best squad in the Premier League, and Isak he'd be probably one of the biggest additions there. But I think with or without Isak, I think Arsenal win the league, which probably a bias of me, but I think they've made a lot of additions this year, and you never know with those additions when you make in those teams for how big of players they are. You got Ekitike, potentially Isak, potentially Verts confirmed in there as well. We don't know how they're gonna flow together as players. Obviously, they look good in the Community Shield, but yeah, and we don't know how good Salah's gonna be next year as well, because obviously he had probably one of the best years in Premier League history. And yeah, I think Liverpool this year is going to be prioritizing the Champions League, because I think Slot's built the team for the Champions League, in my opinion. And yeah, I think second place is probably going to be my opinion for Liverpool.
Fair enough. I got City in at number 2. I'll simply say this just to echo some of what you guys were saying. I think the scary part about City is going forward. Okay, holy shit, it's a fucking nightmare, because similarly, like what I said about Chelsea, I think Pep during the Club World Cup was experimenting with a lot of sides. He played 3 at the back, he played 4 at the back, but that attack was just always like ready to fuck shit up, in my opinion. And now they have more attacking options. Obviously, they have Haaland, they have Doku. They lost Grealish, but it wasn't really a big loss, in my opinion, based on how they play. They have Savinho. They have Cherky now. They have Foden, who we all know technically on a technical level is a great player. We just gotta wait to see if he were sort of returns to the player that we know he can be. And then in my opinion, probably their best signing of the offseason in Reinders, who I feel just unlocks a new level for the team. I think he's such a quality midfielder, coming into a City side that just lost a really high quality midfielder in Kevin De Bruyne. But I think he's somebody to look out for sure. And obviously to see how he adapts to the Premier League, but that's still a question there. I still think that, but on a technical level, he's an incredible player. Defensively, like you said, I think that's the big question mark. I mean, City have Ruben Diaz, they have Akanji, they have John Stones, they have Ake, they have Ait Nouri and whatever, Guardiola, right? But we've seen that this has been a weakness for them last season, right? But my only thing, the reason why I have them in second is I feel like they will just simply overwhelm teams with how good they are on attack, right? So it might be a City team that leaks goals, but it's also a City team that will score, in my opinion, a shit ton of goals. Also, they have they signed Trafford. They might be looking, for whatever reason, God knows why, they might be looking to sign Donnarumma. So that will help fortify that goalkeeping position, I think, for an Ederson, who I think has kind of passed his day, in my opinion. So overall, yeah, I got City at 2 for those reasons. Let's hit everyone with number 1, guys. We've been recording for an hour and 15 minutes. Isn't that crazy? But let's hit everyone with number 1. Gio, my man.
With number 1, I think we have the same team, so I don't know if you want to bounce off each other or if you want to do the same thing one-on-one.
Yeah, we can. So you want to give Luke maybe the chance to say his number 1?
Yeah.
We'll hear his justifications on why he thinks his team is going to win the league. But
all right. Well, number 1, I got Arsenal. I think for the past few years, second. It's obviously there's only one more position to go up with. And the last time we've actually had the second was 1999 to 2001. So that was that, and we had that with Wenger second.
That was your era, huh?
That's one of the trends. Yeah, no, it was the era. We were probably one of the best teams in the world. But for today's standard, I think we've done very well with reinforcing the team in the summer. I think Zubamendi is going to be our most important signing because he gives you that Jorginho effect with setting the tempo, as well as him giving us the chance to, play the ball within the right positions on the right and left side. Because I think Partey is more right-sided centric. He didn't really know how to switch play as well. And I think the biggest thing about us would probably just be Gyökeres, because everyone and their mother said that we were only missing that one striker. And in my opinion, I think we got the best striker on the market for availability wise at the time, because obviously he's like the best striker, but their discussion. But yeah, I think the season Gyökeres is I think he'll get around 20 Premier League goals this year, and I think it's going to be enough for us to get that goal scoring record. Because one of my biggest observations about Arsenal is that we're not short on creating chances, we're just short on people that could execute those chances created.
Mm-hmm.
So Gyökeres' job is to fill in those space, be in those back posts. Against PSG in the first leg, I specifically remember Saka giving 2 beautiful balls in the back post, nobody being there. If we had Gyökeres, I think those are 2 goals. And also Madueke is also going to be an underrated signing, in my opinion, because left wing, we didn't have as much of a ball carrier. He's left-footed. He can put in those left-footed crosses and potentially benefit whoever's in the edge of the box, like Odegaard for his signature shot, and him potentially getting more goals. Kai Havertz, I think he's going to still have a role in the team for how he's improved his body and how he looks quicker, stronger. He looks like a better player to me.
Mm-hmm.
To be right center mid, being a potential second striker, the Gyökeres isn't feeding on him and Saka. And defensively, we've been the best defense in the league for the past 2 years, and I don't think it's going to change for how we are building up the ball. And I think Luis Scully's going to majority start left back, but if we want a more overlapping left back, that's going to be Calafiori. Right back, I think Timber's going to stay in that spot, but if we want to be more attacking minded, get Calafiori and Ben White in those wing back spots. Right, Declan Rice. I think he's going to do the same as last year as well. Get a lot of goals, get a lot of assists in midfield. And with Kyle Saka, this could be his year to potentially eclipse Salah. So you never know. It depends on what we do in the league this year. But yeah, I got Arsenal first.
Okay, buddy. Can I explain to you why your analysis is super flawed?
Flawed.
Yes.
All right, don't do it.
You, my friend Lukenstein, are missing one very important factor
I'll make
in
it like
your
that.
squad that potentially could ruin you this season. And do you know what that is?
What is it? Manager.
The loss of the one and only Raheem Sterling. I don't know how you Arsenal are gonna cope without this brother this season. Nah, but anyway, I'm playing. All right, Gio,
Yeah.
let's tell Mr. Luke over here who the real number one club in England is. Go ahead.
Well, obviously, the best club in England, the biggest club in England is Liverpool, and Liverpool will win the league this season. And I think Kareem agrees with me. I wanted to say though, just to touch a little bit on what Luke said. I don't think anything that he said is wrong. I do think Arsenal are a team that don't give up chances at all. They
Mhm.
give up 2, 3 big chances a game. It feels like sometimes it's like the other team can't even get near the net. So if they can work on their attack, they could win the league. So
Mhm.
I don't, I don't disagree with people saying that. The reason I do say though Liverpool will win the league, and it's not just because we won the league that last season. It's because we've recruited so well, and I think Slot is a coach that we've seen him in pressure situations last season. For me, a guy who has to handle and juggle the contracts of Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who have been three of our best players in the past decade, right? Handling that in the media whilst getting the best out of them on the pitch just shows you that nothing really phases this guy, you know?
Mhm.
He's just more so worried about, what happens on the pitch and where we can deliver. I think the signing of Florian Wirtz, I think you can agree, Kareem, is going to excite a lot of us. Um,
Mhm.
it's a wonderful player. Ekitike, someone who I watched a little bit of him last season when Frankfurt were in the Europa League, and I thought he was a very good player. But now that I've seen him play in preseason and in that Community Shield final, I was very impressed with him. Kirkez is someone that I've watched a lot, being at Bournemouth. A very good player. In preseason, he almost got his whole head kicked off his shoulders because he was defending against Preston, and that just shows you how much he's committed to the cause. And Jeremy Frimpong, and a thing as well to those signings, you see that all of them have actively wanted to join Liverpool. Wirtz, it was between Bayern and City, and then Liverpool were kind of like the dark horse that appeared, and then suddenly it was just only Liverpool. Same thing with Ekitike. It was United, Chelsea were in discussions, Newcastle looked like they were going to sign him until we gave them that ultimatum. You give us Ekitike, or sorry, you give us Isak, and we'll give you Ekitike. Newcastle didn't listen, so it looks like they're going to lose both. And then both of the fullbacks. Kirk has. This guy was practically announcing himself that he was a Liverpool player.
Yeah, literally. Posting
on all this-
selfies with Dominic Szoboszlai and shit, bro.
Posting something, he's doing these interviews with his dad. His dad's saying if Richard Hughes told him to go to India, I'm going to India. So it's like I don't know what kind of pull Hughes is as, but
he's got
even for
the
Jeremy
dark
Frimpong,
magic on deck, bro. Nah, I hear it, man. I hear it. Yeah.
yeah, he's got something this season, and even with Frimpong too. For him it was only Liverpool. So for me, I like that, top players want to come to Liverpool. This wasn't the case, 10, 15 years ago. So, you see it now. These players, I think Slot, Mohamed Salah, people are saying, oh, he's going to fall off this season. Oh, he might do this. We've been hearing this. Every year it's, oh, Salah's going to fall off. Oh, Salah's not going to do this. Oh, Salah's going to do this. And what does he do? He pops up with his 20 plus goals, his 10 plus assists, his goals against the big six, his goals in big moments. That's just the player he is. Virgil van Dijk. He's been a little bit shaky in preseason, but there's been seasons where Van Dijk has been shaky in preseason, has come back to be the best defender in the world, like we all know. So for me, I don't worry about this. The only thing I will say, Kareem, and I wanna shift this to you, is do you think too much change in a Liverpool team is bad? Because we're signing these players, and obviously Giovanni Leone as well, very promising center back as well, alongside Gahey, and we're hoping Isak. Do you think that team last season, which was so, tight knit, losing all these players and replacing them with new players, don't you think it's going to take a little bit of time? Or do you think quality players will just, shine through and Slot's going to have everything figured out? What do you think necessarily on
Well,
that?
the problem is that sometimes people argue that putting too many quote unquote superstars together doesn't necessarily lead to success.
Mhm.
Which I hear for sure. My only thing is that, in my opinion, we haven't signed a single player that I didn't feel like Liverpool needed that player. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
every player that I feel like we've signed is like, yeah, oh shit, like that was a position I think we really needed. Obviously, the right back, the left back, for example, we have Giovanni Leone as the center back option. I don't think he's going to be the only center back option that we signed, but he's definitely a promising talent. The Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, we needed a striker, we got a striker. You know what I mean? We weren't just signing players for the sake of fuck it. We're signing players because we're Premier League champions, so why not, right? No, we were signing players that ultimately we needed. Now, that still doesn't speak to the fact that a lot of change is tough to predict, right? It's good that we've had now several preseason games to see how these things kind of work out, and in my opinion, we've seen the where we lack, and it's not up front. In my opinion, it's not in the midfield. It's our ability to defend against the counter press. All right, we saw against Crystal Palace on Sunday. We saw this against AC Milan, where they just tore us apart. So it's that the idea is that, can we get to a position? Is Arne Slot the guy that can take what we've learned in those moments and sort of adjust for that? I hope he is, and I think that he's a very smart manager. He's a very calm and collected manager. That's my only thing now. About like if I was to say a worry going into next season, that would be my only thing. But that being said, I think quality for quality. I think that we do have a side that can win the Premier League. And I think that the mentality is there. The most important thing is that we have players with like elite fucking mentality. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a Liverpool fan, but you see it time and time again. These are brothers that cannot be shaken, right? And Mohamed Salah, whether he scores 30 goals next season or doesn't, he has an elite mentality. He's the kind of guy you want to rely on to what's it called? In tough situations, to motivate the team, so on and so forth. He's a very much a driving force. So for that reason, I think Liverpool will be Premier League champions next season. If they're not, I still believe that we've come away with some kind of silverware. If you were to ask me, would you rather have title number 21 or would you rather have Champions League number 7? I would say I'd rather have Champions League number 7 personally. Maybe,
really?
Yeah. But
for me, sorry to cut you off, but for me, I would say, if you had it presented to me, right, wrapped up, do you want to win the league or the Champions League? Me personally, I would say the league, only because the only thing that is stopping people from saying that Liverpool is not the biggest club in the world is, well, you don't have the most Premier League titles. And if we get 21, it won't be the most Premier League titles, it'll be the most league titles, right? But if you get 21, then we're kind of beating every team and everything. It's 21 league titles, it's 6 Champions Leagues, domestic cups. I don't know how much they weigh that when it comes to that, but for me, having 21 and being back on our perch after being knocked off for so long by Ferguson, for me means a lot. Because the Champions League, I think this team, if we do add Isak, is 5 years down the line, they're gonna win one or maybe a couple. But that's me personally. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I see both. I'd be happy with either one. I'd be ecstatic for either one. And I feel like sometimes it is nice to win. What the hell happened here? It is nice to win. To be crowned champions of Europe, like just for the aura of it. And obviously that gives one of our players a strong chance of winning the Ballon d'Or, which in my opinion, the one thing that I've been missing in my Liverpool supporting career is to watch one of my players lift that Ballon d'Or. So that would be amazing to see. I feel like winning the Champions League gives that option. Maybe that's a bit selfish for me to say that, but that's just how I think. I think that's a good time to wrap up the video, though, guys. On screen now, I'm going to be placing Gio's Premier League predictions for the top 20, Luke's, and then mine side by side, so you can take one final look at that. It's a hour and a half long video, so I hope you guys enjoyed. We all need your feedback to let us know if this style video was good. So please let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe for more content. We're going to be doing this a lot more if you guys like it. Without further ado, boys, thank you guys for coming on. I'm sure everybody really appreciated your insight for today. And I hope to see you guys on another video. Peace out, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you, man.
Have a good one.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
bro.